When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger for thousands of appetizing ingredients that inspire countless mouthwatering meals. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices. Plus, extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week and up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with points. So you can get big flavors and big savings. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Most weight loss plans are one size fits all, not taking into account each person's individual needs. Noom is here to change that. Noom Weight uses psychology. That's why they say losing weight starts with your brain. But it also takes into account your unique biological factors, which also affect weight loss success. The program helps you understand the science behind your eating choices and why you have cravings. Everyone's journey is different, so your daily lessons are personalized to you and your goals. One of the great things about Noom is that it's nourishing instead of restrictive. They focus on progress instead of perfection. You don't have to give up carbs, or anything for that matter. Have cravings? Food FOMO? Noom can help you lose weight while still enjoying your favorite foods. To date, Noom has helped more than 5.2 million people lose weight. Stay focused on what's important to you with Noom's psychology and biology-based approach. Sign up for your trial today at Noom.com. That's Noom.com.
Are you ready, kids? Get your parents' permission, check your mailbox, and grab your shopping cart. It's time for the Adventures in Collecting podcast.
I'm Eric.
And I'm Dave. Welcome to Adventures in Collecting, where we talk toy news, culture, and hauls,
along with our journeys as collectors.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Adventures in Collecting.
Hi, everyone.
I'd honk a clown horn, but I don't have one.
It's early in the day.
It's early in the day, but what better way to come off of that Halloween high and heading into the holiday season by talking about a horror franchise in this edition of Toys on Film that has started to kind of bridge that gap. Today we're back with Toys on Film. If that's
we've graduated from Halloween high school.
Yeah, if that's not been obvious enough by the title of the episode and the art card and everything, art. We are going to talk about Toys on Film today, the Terrifier franchise. So we're not doing one movie or two movies or even really three movies. We're just going to talk generally about the franchise. It is this generation's horror icon, Art the Clown. Mm-hmm. Very toyetic, disturbing, but very toyetic character. And he's had a couple of action figures made already. He's got one on the way. But as we usually do with Toys on Film, we're going to talk a little bit about the movie itself first. Or in this case, like I said, the franchise. So
we're talking about Shane Douglas.
It's one of the greatest entrance musics of music of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. But so if you are not familiar with the Terrifier franchise, the story follows Art the Clown, who is how would you say, Dave? A
clown.
Yeah, but a supernatural. I think we're still like learning that as the movie goes on. It was definitely inhuman. We'll say inhuman. Serial killer clown, does not speak. Is kind of the antithesis of Pennywise, right? Like Pennywise doesn't shut up, has those bright colors, is terrifying for a different set of reasons.
He's a mime.
Yeah, he's a mime, but don't call him a mime, or he's gonna do something terrible to you. Like he does in the movies. But yeah, follows Art the Clown, portrayed by David Howard Thornton, as he runs rampant through the fictional town of Miles County, New York. Cool little thing about this franchise is it's now grown into this pop culture, sensation where, these low budget films are making a ton of money and have been very successful for everyone involved. But this actually started off as like kind of a throwaway side character in the writer and director's film, The Ninth Circle, I believe it was called. Art the Clown made a kind of cameo in it, portrayed by a different actor. Did not have all of kind of the crazy exaggerated features and kind of the finalized makeup that we're used to seeing now with him, but was a black and white clown. Was clearly some form of demon in that movie as well. But he kind of graduated, so he went from being a bit part in that movie to then having two shorts made about him, one that were featured then in All Hallows Eve was the name of the movie, where Art was actually trapped inside a VHS tape that was tucked away inside some kids' candy stash from Halloween.
Yeah, I think both of the short films with Art are the ones in the movie.
Yeah, yep, they are the ones in All Hallows Eve, correct. But the character continued to increase in popularity as he continued to develop. And then writer, creator, director Damien Leone launched a Kickstarter. It was or a GoFundMe, excuse me, to get a feature-length film made for Terrifier, and they made it on a shoestring budget. It was like $35,000, the first Terrifier film. And while it does feel like a low budget, indie horror movie, it accomplishes quite a bit on that budget, Dave. With one of the grossest kills I think I had ever seen in a movie up until that point. Which I guess we should address this now. Spoiler alert. If you have never seen these films, you might want to pause this here.
Yeah.
Go watch them. They're currently Terrifier 3 is in theaters. Terrifier 1 and 2 are both streaming on Prime at this time, as of the recording of this episode.
I believe they're also on Screambox.
And Screambox, yeah. So definitely watch them first. So that's spoiler warning number 1. Spoiler warning number 2 is we're going to talk about... And if you
want to purchase, they can be purchased at your preferred digital movie purchasing locations.
Vendor, retailer. Warning number 2 is we're going to talk about some stuff that's pretty gross. The thing that the Terrifier franchise is known for is pushing the envelope in terms of on-screen violence and the kind of pun intended, the art, quote unquote, of the kill.
They are a gory set of films.
Yes, that rely heavily on practical, almost entirely on practical effects, which is awesome to see in 2024. And they are gross and absurd and...
first 2 movies, Damien Leone did the effects himself.
There you go. Very, very gross, very, very intense and sadistic. I mean, the whole kind of draw to Art the Clown is that he is this just absolutely heinous, malevolent force. And Damien Leone clearly drew a lot from his love of like grindhouse film to this, like grindhouse and exploitation films to this franchise. It's almost, I guess you could go as far as to say it's a love letter to those types of movies, because the gore and the violence is full tilt, like overly indexed on. So if that's not your cup of tea, maybe don't watch these movies. Because what I was about to say is, in the first movie, one of the grossest things I have ever seen in a film up until that point, a young woman gets hung upside down by her ankles and sawed in half vertically, starting between her legs. I think that's the nicest way that I can
Yeah,
put it.
that won't get us
Demonetized.
demonetized.
Yeah, and he does it while her best friend is duct taped to a chair watching it happen. And one of the things, we mentioned that Art is a mime. He doesn't speak at all. So when he's attacked, when he's committing these acts, there is no sound whatsoever. But like a mime, his expressions are over exaggerated. So the way that he kind of like laughs and mocks and kind of has fun with the whole thing makes it even more kind of disturbing. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, he is definitely rising through the ranks of horror iconography at this point.
Yeah, I would say he's quickly become one.
Very highly featured as well at Spirit Halloween this year. He had
I was going to say there were a couple people at Comic-Con as well.
Yep, we saw a bunch of Art the Clown cosplay at New York Comic Con.
Mm-hmm.
They have a life-size Art the Clown animatronic at Spirit Halloween. They have all sorts of costumes for both kids and adults. So there's that. But yeah, so
I mean, they had like Freddy Krueger costumes
Yeah.
when I was a kid, so
absolutely, they still do. I mean, they have you could put your baby in a Chucky costume.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that's a sign of true success, right?
True
it's
breakthrough.
Yeah.
Breakthrough, whatever they're breaking through.
Yeah. And outside of the
mainstream breakthrough.
There you go. That's the word.
It's early.
Outside of just kind of the cultural breakthroughs, though, these movies have been financially, hugely successful, especially
they've certainly turned profit. That's for sure.
Yeah. So as we mentioned, the first film cost like under $50,000 to make, and it made, it went into the millions. I think it was like a million or two.
The first one, I have numbers in front of me because I wanted to. Now, granted, this is according to Wikipedia.
Okay.
Take that for what it's worth. The budget of the first movie was somewhere between $35,000 and $55,000. That's $1,000, and it made just over $419,000. So that is, if you take the must make back double what it cost, yeah, you're doing all right there.
Yep.
Which is the cinematic rule of thumb to make back all the money that it cost and like advertising and all that stuff.
Yep.
Not to mention whatever the streaming deal is, I'm sure is good. They've made probably a fair amount of money there too.
So the first film, while we're kind of talking about the financials of it, the first film was pretty quiet. Like I actually completely missed it, in terms of
I had heard of it
when it came out. I had seen the cover of All Hallows Eve with Art's face on it, and kind of recognized that scrolling through things like Tubi and kind of the free streaming services.
Yeah, I'd heard of it. I kind of stay on top of what's going on in horror, as it is a favorite genre of mine. So I was aware of it, but the first one had acclaim, but it wasn't like it didn't have the acclaim 2 did. It was like, oh, this is a horror movie.
So did you see 2 when it initially came out, or was it one of those things where like once 2 came out and kind of lit the industry on fire that you went back and saw 1?
So once 2, like, I think you actually saw 2 before me. 1 and 2. I went back and watched all 3 of them. All Hallows Eve, Terrifier, and Terrifier 2.
So I had seen, like I said, I had seen All Hallows Eve just kind of thumbing through the digital tiles on one of those streaming services
Yeah, it
at
was
some
one of those
point.
things I was aware of. Again, I had heard enough. I had heard it was, it was fine, but very like the effects were the highlight.
Yeah, so I like when 2 came out, which it was a little bit delayed because of the pandemic. I think it ended up coming out in like 2022. I think that's right. 2021,
Probably.
2022, somewhere around there. Um, and immediately started making waves. I was like, okay, I remember this character from All Hallows Eve. Let me go back and watch the first one. Watched the first one and went, oh my God. I can't believe that they just did some of this stuff on screen. This movie was super weird. Loved it. Had like that supernatural twist at the end, where the entire movie you're thinking like, oh, this is just a guy in a clown suit, and then, he has the usual horror movie slasher, sits up from the dead at the end. And then what's neat is Terrifier 2 picks up like literally moments after that happens. So you're right back in the
Yeah,
morgue
it's
from the end of the first movie.
yeah, and I think like I really do like it's, and this isn't a knock on Terrifier, and like I have seen far worse $55,000 independent horror movies, but
Yeah.
it is very much an independent slasher film.
Yep. Yeah, Terrifier
Um,
2 instantly had more polish. It had more, like, the storytelling was tighter. The actual pacing of the movie was tighter than the first one. Like it went from
mhm.
going from like a really independent movie to like,
For a movie that's damn near twice as long, yes,
yep,
it's somehow tighter.
yep, yep,
Um, but yeah, also like an extra. It's kind of like oh, this is what an extra 200 grand will get you. Like, and
yep.
even still, I've seen horror movies that have been made for $250,000 that look like $250,000 horror movies. Terrifier 2 does not,
Yeah,
very much so.
yeah, Damien Leone did a miraculous job, and honestly, like, I
They
think,
made that money like whatever, they probably used every cent of it, but they made that money, work for them, like
yeah, and it's an ambitious movie.
in both films, to be honest.
Yes. Yeah. But the second movie, like, that movie is ambitious. Like, there are
Hmm.
things happening in that movie that people try to accomplish in multi-million dollar movies and either don't
And
stick
it
the
looks
landing on
far
or fall
worse.
short. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Exactly. Um, which speaks to the power of good practical effects.
Hmm.
If you're not,
For as much as I love like an Ant-Man, Quantum Mania, nothing in this movie looks like MODOK. Like,
yep, yep. Yeah, and I
and
mean,
I really liked Quantum Mania, so
the other thing that the second movie does is it also dials up. You watch the first one and you're like, whoa, I can't believe that they did some of the things they did in this movie from like a violence standpoint. From again like that art of the kill. Um, and then some of the stuff they do in the second one, you're like, whoa, like. There's a particular scene, like, not going to go into detail, that involves bleach and salt that I still think, even after seeing the third one, which we'll get to that shortly, I still think is the grossest thing I've ever seen in a movie. Like, kill wise. Like, that entire sequence, starting from when that happens to how it ends with the trick-or-treating scene that follows it. Like, it, to me, it is one
I
of the greatest
guess.
1-2 punches in like
Is
slash.
it weird that I didn't think it was that bad? Like, or I definitely think it was like wild, but like I actually thought sawing somebody in half was way worse.
You know, you're not wrong. I
I think it was like it was crazier in a kind of, I'll say, torture sense,
That's kind of
but
what I mean.
like it didn't, like I kind of, I it takes a lot for me to cringe during a movie. It's usually like compound fractures, to be honest.
Okay.
Um,
Which there's one of in that scene.
in 3 there is.
No, in 2. I mean, he takes her arm and he like Steven Seagals it.
Oh, I mean, like, if it, not when somebody's just ripping somebody. Like, I mean, like if you rip somebody's arm off, you rip somebody's arm off.
You're
I
talking about
mean,
like a
like,
fall and a bone is coming out of a
yes,
leg, sort of thing. Okay, all right, gotcha.
like in The Descent, I almost threw up. But,
Yeah, that's another rough one. Um,
but yeah, it was like, it was, it's a more difficult scene, but I think the kind of grosser effect to me was 1 and 3.
yeah, there is a part.
There's one, and it's not even the one that from that scene that people talk about. That one's like almost like a sillier version of the first movie. It's what happens before that to me that's like worse.
Yes, I think I know what you're talking about. Let's save
Yeah.
3. We'll get to 3 shortly. So, 2 was the one that made $2 million. That was where I was getting the $1 million profit mix up.
It made way more than that. It made like 15.
15. Okay, there we go then. So there's a 2 million somewhere. We'll eventually get to it. Maybe that was the budget of the newest one.
Yes.
There we go. Knew there was $2 million. Yeah. So it again, huge profit on a couple $100,000. It made millions. So definitely.
Let's just say this franchise is printing money thus far.
Yep. Yes,
It
is.
also got like an immediate, maybe not an immediate, but it also got like a theatrical release, like right out of the gate.
Yes, the second one did. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So second one also, they had opened up the funding for a crowd fund.
Oh, one other thing. The other thing that I appreciate in the first one that they don't do in 2 and 3, obviously, is they do that little, like, sometimes horror movies can do it successfully, where it's like the old psycho switcheroo, where you think the movie's about one person, but it's really about someone else.
Yes. Yeah, it's true. There is a very distinct like moment where it switches to being
Where
about.
it's like, oh, all bets are off now. Like,
Yep. Yep. Yeah, it doesn't follow the normal like final girl archetype at first, honestly, not at all until the second one.
yeah, I would say the second one is kind of more standard than that.
Which, speaking of which, our final girl, Sienna.
Mm-hmm.
We're introduced
Great
to
character.
her in part 2. Awesome character. Really,
Fantastic character.
really, really great. I mean, like right in the ballpark of your other huge heroine characters, like your your Nev Campbell's in Scream, your Heather Langenkamp.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can say Nancy. And
Nancy and Sydney. That's true.
yeah,
but
I would say she's kind of more of like an evolved Nancy than anything.
Yep, and she's got a really well developed backstory.
Mm-hmm.
She is not a one-dimensional character at all, which is awesome. You love to see that kind of forward momentum in storytelling.
Yeah,
and she's awesome. Also, toyetic as all hell in that by the end of that second movie.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they haven't done that.
Yeah, would love a
I would
Sienna
get
figure.
I would get that figure.
But yeah, they do a great job of developing the protagonist in the second one and carrying her into the third. Also, the development
Lauren
of Laura.
Lavera is the actor's name.
What was that, Dave?
Lauren Lavera is the actor's name.
Lauren Lavera, yeah.
Yeah. Also, just got I think just signed on for a movie with Djimon Hounsou, and that's going to be directed by Darren Lynn Bousman.
Yep, I did see that.
Which is that's a big deal. I think like the guy who directed the majority of the Saw movies
and Repo the Genetic Opera.
Yeah.
Criminally underrated movie, Repo the Genetic Opera.
Yeah, I like that one a lot.
But what was I going to say? Oh, yes. So Sienna, we now have a protagonist, which is awesome. And also the thing that part 2 does is it really starts to establish the lore of what's going on.
Yeah.
There's something that's kind of traceable through all of Damien Leone's work so far, which is this kind of like good versus evil, like heaven versus hell situation. So, we're really getting into kind of like demonology and angels to the point where, Sienna's father in the film dies of, he takes his own life, but prior to that, he has a brain tumor. And he starts envisioning kind of these things with, a character with angel wings that he draws for Sienna. That he's a comic book artist in the film, but he also starts seeing visions of art and all of kind of the things to come. So there's this almost kind of like destiny sort of
It was played
situation
by Jason
happening.
Patrick in the third movie.
He was. I noticed that. Yeah, you don't see him in the second movie.
You don't see him in 2.
But yeah, he there's this very distinct pull between kind of demons and hell and kind of the worst of the worst, including like visual elements of like falling down a deep pit into like a nightmare zone type area in the second one. A flaming sword. There's a lot of like really cool imagery to kind of help tell that lore. And it may sound kind of silly as we're talking about, the kind of the juxtaposition of like this intense, like gory violence combined with almost like fantasy elements to a degree, but it actually works. Like
there's definitely some I would say Frazetta.
Yes, big time. I don't know if that's I would assume it's intentional. I haven't heard Damien Leone talk about it, directly, but yeah, there's definitely a Frazetta vibe with some of the fantasy elements that are happening here. And, all the way to the end, you get this massive fight between Sienna and Art at the end of the second film. That's just like, I feel like it goes on for like a good, like 5-10 minutes of them like brutally beating each other. And it's awesome. Like, it's so epic.
Yeah, there's definitely some like the vibe of of their family. The younger brother, all that stuff.
Yep. Again, the violence upturned to the max in that movie. Their mom gets a really raw deal in that movie. As well as one of Sienna's, or both of Sienna's,
really all of her friends.
Yeah, all of her friends. Which, you find out at the end of the movie that Art is going to continue. There's a stinger that actually ties back to the first film in a way that I think a lot of people weren't expecting. I certainly
although
wasn't.
Based off of the beginning of the movie, it kind of that had to go somewhere, right?
Featuring
the thing that. Well, go ahead and talk about Chris Jericho.
Yep, I was going to say featuring a cameo from AEW, current AEW wrestler, pro wrestler Chris Jericho playing
Ring of Honor World Champion Chris Jericho.
Yep, the learning tree.
2-time.
Featured at the end of this film in a fun cameo that again carries over to part 3, which I thought was really cool. So
yep, it pays off in the third one.
Yep.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
This segment is brought to you by our friends at Chubsy Wubsy Toys. A traditional mom-and-pop toy store in Little Falls, New Jersey, Chubsy Wubsy Toys brings you the best new toys from the brands you love without the hassle of pounding the pavement searching for them at larger retail stores. Visit them in person at their brand new home at 101 Newark Pompton Turnpike, Suite 1 in Little Falls, New Jersey, or online at chubsywubsy.com. That's CHUBZZYWUBZZY.com. And tell them Adventures in Collecting sent you.
And now, back to the show.
The thing that... And I don't know if this is going to come back or not, but I feel like it I don't know. I guess it does, but it wasn't even like it was mentioned in the third one. But the like basically female art, the pale girl
Oh, the little
that
girl. The
Art
little
sees.
girl. Yeah,
Yeah,
the one who you're introduced to as she has diarrhea in a in a laundromat.
in a laundromat. Yeah, but it's like a vision
Yeah,
only Art can see. Um,
great little character though.
which I get. Maybe that's who they meant. Like we're getting into like deep lore here, but I think in the third one, that's the child that they mean. And I have a feeling it's going to factor into the fourth one based off of how the third one ends.
Yeah.
I, I mean, it can't just be one of those things where it's like, yep, this didn't happen.
So it seems like okay. So
That would
moving
be
on.
that would be too indie horror movie for
Yeah.
that to happen.
So I think at least in my head canon, I have an explanation for this. So this takes us to the third one. So Terrifier 3, which is out in theaters now, instead of taking place on Halloween like the first two, this takes place on Christmas. So
Mm-hmm.
Art spends the majority of the movie in a stolen Santa costume,
I wouldn't
which is
say.
also
I would say the last second half.
yeah. Well, let's just say the holiday season. It takes place
Oh no,
around.
I meant the second half of the movie. He's in the Santa suit.
Yes, yeah. But you'll see that in like the poster and all of the kind of
It's
like
in the
ad
marketing.
artwork. Yeah. Um, so this they pick up right where number 2 ends, and they jump right into kind of the demonology of
Well,
this.
it has a neat little cold open.
Yes, we'll leave it at that. There is a neat little cold open.
If you've seen the trailer, you kind of
Yeah. Those sounds on the roof were not reindeer. Uh,
so I'm looking at like a description of the plot, and it explains away like
well, they say in the third movie that it's kind of like a power of two situation. That there's
yeah,
a demon
and
that
there's a
embodies,
possession,
yeah, and
Victoria,
the
and that's the pale girl.
exactly there you go. So the
Okay.
and they connect the dots there with the kind of glowing yellow eyes. So
Mm-hmm.
as the little girl is walking away in the second one with Art's head in tow, you see that kind of glow of her eyes. But as they get into kind of more of the demonology stuff in part 3, they kind of tell this story that like Art will always be able to live as long as this demon cohort can embody a person. So you're led to then kind of connect the dots yourself that the little girl in part 2 was that demonic cohort, and now it's Victoria, who
Mm-hmm.
was his victim from the the first
The
film,
first movie.
who is her face is completely deformed. She's the one that kills the talk show host and ends up in the insane asylum that we see at the end of part 2. And then she becomes that kind of demon cohort,
Yeah.
throughout the third film. What's really cool about the third movie, again, much like the first two, the production value goes up, the storytelling and kind of polish gets enhanced a little bit, and also the hyper violence continues to ratchet up. There's some truly remarkably foul things that happen in part 3. And Art becomes a kind of do-it-yourself scientist too, as well.
It's only about 13 minutes shorter.
we see Art in his laboratory building some a pretty wicked device.
Yeah.
And tests it
Couple
out
apparently.
on a rat. R.I.P. rat. Yeah, and I think the other thing too for part 3. So part 3, I know we kind of have differing opinions here.
We both thought it was good. We both liked it. Yeah, I think it's fantastic. It's basically like, okay, this is what they can do with even more money. Like
Yep.
We've reached the point where it's definitely not an independent, even though it is an independent horror film, it's not we're beyond that now
Yeah.
as far as the quality and everything that they do. It's funny at a crisp almost 2 hours and 20 minutes. I thought 2 moved more than 3. I guess because there's so much lore and there's so much going on in 2 that it's just you're kind of it's all coming in.
What's the word? Exposition. There's a lot of
Yeah,
exposition in 3, more so than
very
typical.
much so.
Um,
And there's a lot that happens off camera. It's almost, and apparently intentionally off camera.
Interesting.
But yeah, like deleted scenes are not the stuff that you don't see. That's been said in interviews by Damien Leone. I forget where I read it, on one of the movie sites on the internet, but yeah, the deleted scenes are not stuff that have it's not the uncle, it's not the brother, that just happened off camera.
Yeah.
So it's as bad as whatever you think.
And I mean that's also to a degree it works.
And I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I don't care if stuff happens off camera. I do think the brother deserved an on-camera death, the big character.
Yeah.
The uncle, I could have, fine, but he deserved to go out in person.
Yeah, I thought that was an odd choice. That was the one.
It
really
works
the one
for
thing.
it works for what they do in the movie.
Yeah, how they use it in the story does work
it's a little swerve.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a head fake. Head
literally. Fake. But yeah, ultimately,
I didn't even do that on purpose. That literally just fell out of my mouth. But I'm gonna claim ownership.
Ultimately, though, I think the character deserved an on-screen death.
Yeah,
I just think there was more. A lot of the story is told, not shown, whereas a lot of it is shown in 2.
Yeah,
because because it's already established. Now we're just kind of adding to it.
Yep. The thing that I love.
So it could have been a tight 110 and been way better.
See, the thing that I like the most about 3 is I love the so first of all, throughout all of them, David Howard Thornton as Art
he's fantastic.
He's incredible. 3
and I mean that's taking cutting 5 or 10 minutes out of this movie makes it from a 7 to a hot 10.
So 3 is my favorite of the 3, because one of the things that I love about horror movies, especially when there's an icon in it, like an Art the Clown, or like a Freddy Krueger is a great example. I mean, he did it kind of first. There is this fine line between terror and comedy, and I think David Howard Thornton's performance in 3, there were points where I was laughing out loud in the theater, and then immediately felt weird about laughing because of what was happening on screen that I was laughing at, but because his performance is so subtle. And there's one scene that he actually does technically nothing wrong yet, technically, that literally made me laugh so hard.
That scene is very funny, though.
I couldn't breathe. When those 2 college kids were talking about him and he was a room over listening, and it kept cutting to him just making facial expressions as he's listening to them talk about him as a celebrity. And he's like, hold on a second, I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm just going to lean here and soak this in. It was so funny and so nuanced that I was like, I could watch this dude do this movie.
Oh yeah,
forever.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. It's just, he's just, every time he's on screen, your eyes are glued to him, whether you want them to be glued to him or not. He's just so good, and apparently he like genuinely loves doing this too. Like he's not one of those guys that's like, oh, I got to put them, prosthetics on again and do this again. Like he genuinely eats this stuff up.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. I mean, that's why, he's known for, especially this recently, like going to cons in the costume, going to Spirit Halloween stores and like scaring people and taking pictures with them. Like he really is like, kind of living his best life through this role, and it's awesome. Like he's this generation's Robert Englund.
Yeah, I would say that. That's fair.
I really think he's reached that point in the span of these 3 movies now, and it's almost, I mean, it's a guarantee. With this movie has already cleared, I think it's like how many million? I was reading it the other day.
It's in the 50s.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous. Like we're talking $50 million on a $2 million budget that we're getting part 4. Like it's, and of course there is a cliffhanger in 3.
Yeah.
Again, more and more lore in this. Like, Dave, you actually said it first, but the next one's
it feels like they're going a very Dream Warriors direction, which I'm fine with.
Yeah. Me too.
But yeah, like I think the thing that I think one of the things that was, and no pun intended, a little overkill was like you didn't have to like continually revisit that everyone thinks Sienna's like crazy.
Yeah. Well, the aunt and uncle were a bit much. Mostly the uncle.
Yeah, like you could have taken a couple of those out and been like, all right, there's a couple minutes right there. Like I think that in an effort to build this lore, there was just so much of just like, whereas the lore exists now and we're just adding to it, some of the stuff was pounded home a little too much.
Well, now you're not going to have that problem in the next one, though.
Depending on what this next thing is. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What this other world is and whatever the case may be.
Well, I think...
And whoever the next person is, or is it going to be a fight to... like New Nightmare, the little girl, like who knows, right?
Yep. So
or Dream Child, the little girl.
My favorite little...
Yeah, Dream Child makes more sense.
Yeah. My favorite little Easter egg as we kind of wrap up just talking about these movies as a whole. I read recently that Damien...
Now, granted, it's a fantastic movie, and I went in with so high of expectations. Maybe an unfair set. I don't know.
I thought it delivered. I thought it actually over delivered, but
just shy for me. Like just shy. And I think if it was a little tighter, I think it would have been a 10, like easy 10. Because 2 is like a 9 to me.
Yeah, see, I have this at like this
is like 7 or 8 depending on how I feel that day.
For me, it's marginally better than 2. Like I would give 2 like a 9,
and for me it's marginally not as good, because I don't want to say marginally worse, because again that's not the opinion I want you to think I have. It's just that I enjoyed 2 so much.
I mean,
that I wanted this to be better, and it was by an eyelash.
So when I went to go see it, I actually saw the double feature, which was awesome. Some theaters were showing 2 and 3 back to back. I thought I had picked the right theater to also see the 15-minute Ice Nine Kills video that they did for
it's cool
for Terrifier. If you like Ice Nine Kills, it's another fun horror song. But they got Art, David Howard Thornton to reprise his role as Art for the music video. It's fun.
I guess in the Terrifier like universe, also System of a Down no longer exists. if the music video is canon.
I don't think it's canon. I don't think the music video is canon.
I
But
mean,
it's
it could
funny.
be. Nobody in the movie is in it, so it could very well be.
That's true. Yeah, he just rolled up at a concert, killed Ice Nine Kills and Chavo from System of a Down, and called it a day. But yeah,
and Thomas Ian Nicholas.
Yep. Rip. So I thought that I was seeing that music video in between the two. That was only at AMC's. I ended up going to a Cinemark. So while I did get to enjoy both films on the screen, which was awesome, I didn't get the music video. I had to watch that at home. But yeah, I think the kind of really cool thing that ends Terrifier 3 is a callback to the character's origin. So I was reading recently that the idea of the character came to Damien Leone in kind of like a nightmare, where he had a nightmare about this clown that
As most people do.
A woman is on a bus, and bus pulls up to a bus stop. This clown gets on the bus, and the bus is empty except for her and the clown, but the clown decides to sit directly across from her. And over the span of their bus ride, the clown goes from being, kind of antagonistic and like making fun of her to, becoming more intense and more, kind of scary and threatening and violent. And that's how this movie ends, which I thought was a lot of fun. Him getting on the bus completely covered in blood and viscera with his black trash bag, just sitting across from a.
And the bus driver is one of the producers of the film.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool. But yeah. So from the movies to the toys. As we mentioned, something that I think we both would love to see is a Sienna figure. We have only thus far gotten a series of arts. So I have the first one that came out here. So this is the 5-inch Trick or Treat Studios retro style art. Very, very cool figure.
Is that the Bloodbath variant?
It is the Bloodbath variant. So if you put this in the freezer, or just it actually got cold enough in my office the other day with this weird New Jersey weather that I came upstairs and he was red, which was really cool. But of course, this is from the first film, so he comes with the weapons that he needs from the first movie. So we've got the hacksaw, and then
the garbage bag, right?
Really cool feature. The garbage bag actually opens, and he's got a little knife. And while he seems very, very unamused to have to use it, a little pistol as well, and everything fits nicely into the trash bag, and he can hold it. It's a great figure. Trick or Treat Studios appears to have the primary. I don't want to go as far as to say like primary license for it, but they were the first to license it. So they also have a 1/6 scale, almost sideshow-esque clothed art
that is
clown.
Unavailable from their website at time of recording.
Yeah, it was before Terrifier 3, so it goes to show you the power of when a movie does well in theaters.
Yeah.
There is also a series of masks and costumes, like we mentioned. Animatronics from.
This plastic injection mask looks awesome.
Yeah, there's a ton of masks and stuff, and then. Just a couple days ago, Mezco 112 Collective Art the Clown went up for sale on Entertainment Earth. If you want to pre-order that for yourself, it is honestly, it's incredible. It's like a little. We
saw it at Toy Fair, or not Toy Fair, Comic-Con.
Comic-Con. It's a little bit of Terrifier and a little bit of Terrifier 2 together, based on the weaponry that he comes with. I mean, he comes with the cat o' nine tails. He comes with the table leg with all of the stuff stuck in the end of it. He's permanently bloodied. Comes with a couple of different face sculpts. He comes with the carved head from the first Terrifier film, from the pizza place. He's got an actual functional little black trash bag that you can open up and fill with stuff and sling it over his shoulder, which is awesome. That, like I said, that is up on Entertainment Earth, AIC podcast /links. You can grab a link for it right there.
I kind of want something between that and the 5-inch.
So this is where the wants come in, right? I would absolutely love, because I have a ton of their horror stuff, obviously Ghostface, Michael Myers, Freddy, Jason. I would love an art that scales with the rest of my NECA stuff.
Yeah.
That would be the target. Like, if I could have one company make,
Like one's like 7-ish inch art.
I would love for them to make
Or
all
in
of the
scale,
horror.
that scale. Because I'd say he's like shorter than, I would say he's like Freddy height.
Yeah, he's pretty tall. Like, just thinking about how he is in the movie, in the movies, but regardless, I want that scale. I think that the official is like 1/10 scale. But yeah, I would love a NECA Ultimate art. They just do such a good job with their horror stuff. They're the best out there at that. I think it's hard to argue. But right now I'll have to settle for the Mezco 112. Hopefully it doesn't take too long to ship. Sometimes with Mezco, they say that it's going to come. Supposedly this is coming between February and April of 2025, which isn't terribly far away. But, we've seen that before, and sometimes it ends up being February and April of the following year. So fingers crossed that that timeline is legitimate. But yeah,
I'm just looking something up real quick. I'm looking up heights.
Hopefully more, just in general, more Terrifier toys. I would love a Sienna and her Terrifier 2 outfit.
Okay, he's got about 4 inches on Robert Englund.
Yeah, I was gonna say he looks tall, like in the stuff that I've seen of him. So, Dave, if you could have one figure from the Terrifier franchise, what would it be?
Just one?
Yeah, just one. If you had to pick one.
Well, I guess since I already have that same Bloodbath art, a Sienna in that scale, but like I'd really want like something like similar to what you're saying, like a NECA style, or if Trick or Treat could do it, or what have you.
Yeah.
Of art and Sienna, like.
Yep. Yeah, I think if I'm picking one today, knowing that I have the Mezco coming,
and Sienna in like the costume at the end of 2, not like street clothes Sienna.
Yeah.
With the sword and everything. Like I need something where I could put it on the shelf as that like fight.
Yeah, and that's why my pick is, if I could snap my fingers and have a figure tomorrow, it would be a retro style Sienna to go with this. Just because this figure is super cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I really do enjoy it.
But yeah, I would agree with you then. That's
like get him a pair, somebody to pair him up with, or honestly, or the little girl, the like
no
little girl Terrifier to go with him from Terrifier.
No, I want like that would be cool, or even a Vicky, but like Sienna's the toy they have to make.
Mondo Sofubi Art the Clown.
That'd be cool. They could do it as like a vessel, a nightmare vessel.
I was just about to say, I'm on my nightmare vessel kick, and I'm looking at my Michael Myers.
Oh, that's the other head, bleeding eyes.
So the 3 heads are non-bleeding eyes, bleeding eyes, and then Ben Tramer.
And Ben Tramer, yeah.
Yeah. Nightmare vessel, make it a severed head. So, sorry about that. My microphone was off because I was coughing. Yeah, I think with that,
which totally defeats the purpose of turning it off to cough.
Yeah. Whoops. I think with that, this is a fine way to transition ourselves out of spooky season and into holiday season. Go see Terrifier 3 if you're into horror. It's awesome.
Watch. Well, I mean, if you've never seen any of them, I would say watch the first one, see if it's for you.
Yeah. Yep.
You really can. You can kind of skip. You can skip All Hallows Eve.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
I mean, granted, you can get it for under $10 if you want to. It's fine.
Go back and watch it as an Easter egg after you're done with the.
Yeah, watch it later. Like,
yeah.
It works. Like the movie works.
Yeah. Save it for next Halloween. Like, that's a good, like, Halloween movie. All Hallows Eve.
I guess.
You know, the little anthology situation. Yeah.
It's got like the trick or treat vibe to it, sure.
Yep. Well, with that, this has been Toys on Film, the Terrifier franchise. Dave.
Yeah.
Send us home.
That's me honking a horn.
Thank you, dear listener, for hanging out with us today. Subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you listen, and then tell your friends to do it. Thanks also to Joe Azari, the golden voice behind our intro. Our music is Game Boy Horror by the Zombie Dandies. Find more about them both in our show notes.
Follow us on social media at AIC_podcast on Instagram and Twitter. Stop by and say hi, show us your toy hauls, and share your toy stories. Maybe we'll talk about it in a future episode.
Don't try this at home. Void where prohibited and some assembly required. Each sold separately, not a flying toy. Consult a physician if your toy run exceeds more than 4 hours.
This has been a non-productive media presentation. Executive producer Frank Hablawi. This program and many others like it on the Non-Productive Network is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. Please share it, but ask before trying to change it or sell it. For more information, visit non-productive.com.
At Kroger Pharmacy, CARE is making it easy to get vaccinated. CARE is helping you stay protected from flu, COVID, and RSV. Seasonal vaccines are available 7 days a week with evening hours. CARE is giving you a shot at staying healthy this season. Walk in whenever is best and get multiple vaccines in one visit at your local Kroger Pharmacy. So come and get the protection you need while protecting those around you. Kroger Health, a world of care, is in store. Visit Kroger.com/vaccines for more. Restrictions and exclusions apply. See site for details.